Okay, children, up to now we have discussed what are living things and what are non-living things, and examples for living things and non-living things, and what are the characteristics of living things. That means the living things and the non-living things will have different characteristics. In the same way, the living things and non-living things have some similarities between them. So not only differences, so both living things and non-living things have some similar characteristics. So what are the similar characteristics of between living things and non-living things? Up to now we have discussed the different characteristics possessed by the living things and non-living things. That means both living things and non-living things possesses different characteristics. And also they have some similar characteristics also. So what are the similar characteristics between living things and non-living things? So the first one is both have definite shape. So both have definite shape. So that means both living things and non-living things have definite shape. But if we consider some non-living things, that means if we consider balls, either football or tennis ball, or they have a circular shape. And if we consider the shape of a board, a shape of a computer, a shape of a TV screen, they have a rectangular shape. And if we consider some boxes, so all they have some cube or cuboid shape. So in the same way, both living things have also some definite shape. So in this way, both living things and non-living things possesses a definite shape. For example, all the pens have some particular shape. So if some pens are larger than other pens and some pens are smaller than other pens, wherever the length is different but the shape is the same. In the same way, if we consider living things, that means hands. So some hands are bigger in size and some hands are smaller in size, wherever their shape is small. So even though their size is different, but they have similar shape. Or in the same way, if we consider other animals like some cats are smaller in size and some cats are bigger in size and some dogs are bigger in size and some dogs are smaller in size. So whereas the size is different, but their shape is similar. So in the same way, both living things and non-living things possesses definite shape. Either it is living thing or it is a non-living thing, it will possesses some particular shape. So the second one is both living things and non-living things occupy space. So both occupy space. So both living things and non-living things occupy space. That means they will occupy some place. So since the living things and non-living things have different shape, and if we place the objects on any table, they will occupy some space on the table. For example, if we place a computer on the floor, it will occupy some space. And if a man sit on the bench, he will occupy some space on the bench. And if I place this marker on a table, it will occupy some space on the table. So in this way, everything, that is all things, that is living things and non-living things, all things will occupy some space. Why? Because they have some definite shape. So if any article have shape, then it will definitely occupy some space. And if I sit on a chair, I will occupy space in the chair. And if I sleep on a bed, I will occupy some space on the bed. And if an animal is sat on the floor, it will occupy some space on the floor. And if you grow a plant in your garden, then it will grow some space in your garden. So in this way, all the birds, animals and human beings and also non-living things all occupy some space. All of you have refrigerator, that means ACs and TVs, computers. You have different types of things in your house. All things have occupied some space. So in your house there is full of articles and they will occupy some space, and the remaining space you will use in your house. So from this we can understand that both, that means all living things and non-living things occupy space. Next, third one is all, that means both living things and non-living things both have weight. So both have weight. So both means living things and non-living things possesses some weight. For example, if you consider a table and if you want to lift the table, then you will feel difficult because it possesses some weight, and you cannot easily place you cannot easily lift the chair, and you cannot easily place the chair from one place to another place. So in the same way, a table or a bench or a bed or a computer or TV or refrigerator, all things we cannot easily lift. And while we are holding those objects, we have to hold it properly, because if we do not hold it properly, so it will fall down because of its weight. So all living things and non-living things, so will possesses some weight. That means all human beings. So have ever you seen your weight? So in your railway station or bus stand or in your parks, so there will be a weighing machine. So have you seen ever? Yes. So sometimes when we go to exhibitions or parks or amusement parks, there will be a weighing machine. And if you drop a 2 rupee coin, 1 rupee coin, then you will get a slip from it, and it will shows. So what will it shows? Yes, it will shows your weight. And if you place an object, that means if you place a dustbin, or if you place a table, or if you place a chair on the weighing machine, then it will also shows its weight. So and if you place an animal on the weighing machine, it will also give its weight. So from this we can understand that so everything, that means both living things and non-living things, everything possesses some weight, because they have shape and size, and they have exhibit some weight. And fourth one is, so the fourth similarity for living things and non-living things is both are made up of matter. So both are made up of matter. So both means here living things and non-living things both shows they are made up of matter. Matter means, so if you consider human beings or animals and birds, their body is filled with fleshes, blood, bones. So in this way all living things will filled with matter. So and also plants. So plants contains roots and stems, and they are filled with water or cells. So in the same way, non-living things also made up of matter. So every article, everything we are seeing with our eye will made up of matter. So without matter, no body can be made. So if you consider a chair, so it is made up of a plastic. So it contains plastic in its body. And if you take a book, it is made up of paper, and the paper is made from wood pulp. So in the same way, if you consider any article, everything in your surroundings, either it is living thing or non-living things, it is made up of matter. So once it is made up of matter, it possesses weight, and it occupies space, and it possesses shape. So these are the similarities between living things and non-living things. So children, so in previous session, that means in previous episode, we have learned about what are the different things we are observing. and that is what are living things and what are non-living things, and what are the characteristics of living things and what are the characteristics of non-living things, and what are the examples for living things and non-living things, and what are the similarities between living things and non-living things. So in today's episode we will learn how the living things are different from non-living things. So that is how living things are different from non-living things. So how can we differentiate? So what are the differences between living things and non-living things? So we can explain it in an elaborated manner. So how can we differentiate living things and non-living things? So already we have discussed in the previous episode what are the characteristics of living things. So in the same way, again in this episode also, we will explain each characteristics elaboratedly with examples. So the characteristics of living things will be explained in the help of examples and in elaborated manner. So let us see the first characteristics. So by using which we can differentiate living things and non-living things. So there are 5 characteristics by using which we can differentiate living things and non-living things. So the first characteristic is all living things grow. So this is the first characteristics of living things. So all living things grow. So all living things grow and non-living things does not grow. Already we have discussed in the previous episode that all living things will grow and non-living things does not grow. So let us explain it in an elaborated way and with the help of examples. So but with the help of these characteristics, that means with the help of this grow, we can differentiate living things and non-living things. That means the things which can grow are called living things, and the things which cannot grow are called non-living things. So for example, all living things grow. That means all human beings. So all human beings and birds, animals and plants. So these are the living things and all living things will grow. For example, if we consider human beings, so all human beings will grow day by day. That means the height of the human beings increases and their size also increases day by day during their lifetime. So especially for human beings, so every human being can grow up to certain age, that is 14 years or 16 years. After that age, their growth will be stopped. So if we consider small kids or children, we can easily observe their growth year by year. So for example, children, you are studying 3rd class and if you entered into the 4th class after 1 year, then your height will be increased and your size will be increased. And if you enter into the 5th class, then again your height will be increased when compared with the 4th class. So in this way, your height and size will be increased as you go to the higher classes, and your growth will be continued up to your 15 years of age, and after 15 or 16 years or 18 years your growth will be stopped. So in this way, so human beings can grow and human beings can grow. That means their size and height increases from beginning to up to 18 years of age or 16 years of age. So in the same way, birds. So birds also increases their size and their weight also increases day by day during their lifespan. So if you keep a small hen, for example, if you have hens in your house, it will lay eggs after some years or after some days. So from the egg will be converted into a small hen. So after some days, the egg will be So the egg of the hen will be converted into a small hen. And after some days, as the days are passed by, so the small hen will be converted into a big hen. So in this way, so all the birds will grow during their lifetime. So the birds lays eggs, and after some days the eggs are converted into a smaller one. And after some days the smaller will be converted into a bigger one. And again they lay eggs. So in this way, all the birds will grow during their lifetime. In the same way, animals gave birth to new ones. That means they will reproduce. For example, if you take a small cat or small dog, so it will produce. So if you take a dog, then it will lay puppies. So puppies. So after some days, if you look at the puppies are very small in size at the time of their birth. As the days are passed by, the puppies are gradually grown. That means the size of the puppies gradually increases and they become into a bigger one, that is adult one. So in the same way, not only dogs, cats, rats, mouses and elephants, tigers, cheetah, lions, all the animals produce their babies, and all babies are very small at the time of birth, and as the days are passed by, they will gradually increase their size, and after some days or after some years they will grow into a bigger one during their life period. So in the same way also plant. For example, if you plant a seed in your garden, so if you plant a seed in your garden and if you put water to the seed, after some days, so you will get a small plant. So if you look at the small plant, its size is very less and very small. And after some days, the small plant will convert into a big plant. So that means the size of the plant increases day by day. That means the plant is growing day by day. And after some years, the big plant converted into a big tree. So in this way, all the living things, that means human beings, birds, animals and plants increases their size and height during their lifespan. And so this is the first characteristics, that is all living things grow. So okay children, the next characteristic which differentiate living things from non-living things is that is movement. That means all living things move. All living things move. So this is the second characteristics which differentiates the living things from non-living things. So all living things move, but non-living things does not move. So that means the things which move by themselves are living things, and the things which does not move by themselves are non-living things. For example, if you consider living things, like if you consider human beings, so every human being will move from one place to another place during his lifetime in search of food or for job purpose or for school or for college, for office. So every day, every human being will move from one place to another place. So the movement is different for different living things. So every living thing does not move in the same way. So every living thing does not move in the same way. So different living things will move in different ways. For example, if you consider human beings, so human beings will move by walking, running, jumping, like this. So human beings will move from one place to another place. So by moving, by walking, by running, or by jumping. So whereas if you consider animals, that means if you consider cows, so they will roam. They will roam while they are moving from one place to another place. And if you consider snakes, so they will crawl from one place to another place. And whereas if you consider some plants, that is a sunflower plant. So if you consider sunflower plant, so it will move towards the sun. So it will move towards the sun. So in this way, every living thing will move from one place to another place. So whereas if you consider animals, they will move from one place to another place in search of their food. So without food, any living thing does not live. And if they does not move, they cannot get food. And if they cannot get food, they did not have energy, so they will die. So in search of their food, every living thing, that is human beings, animals and plants, so all move from one place to another place, and most of the plants does not move from one place to another place. So except plants, every living things move from one place to another place. Because plants gets their food, that means plants gets their food from its own place. That means the roots gets water from the soil in its place, and the leaves gets sunlight from its place. So there is no need for the movement of the plants for their food. So they will prepare their food at their own places without moving by using process photosynthesis. So the plants does not move, so without moving they can food with the help of photosynthesis. But whereas in cases of animals and birds and human beings, they will move from one place to another place in search of food. So the movement is different. So the movement is different for different living things. So for example, human beings walks, runs or jumps, whereas cows roams and snakes crawls. And if you consider sunflower plant, that is sunflower will move towards the sun. So this is the second characteristic which differentiate living things from non-living things. Whereas if you consider non-living things, for example a pen or a car or a bench or a table, so they does not move from one place to another place. So for example, this is a board and it does not move from one place to another place. And if you come next day, it will remain in its place. And if you come after 1 year, it will remain in its place. And in your house there is so many benches, tables and refrigerator. The refrigerator will remain in its own place. So until you move. So that means every non-living thing does not move by itself. Whereas living things will move themselves. So this is the second characteristic. So which differentiate between living things and non-living things. So all living things will move from one place to another place in different ways, whereas non-living things does not move from one place to another place. So all the vehicles can also be considered as non-living things. So vehicles are moving. We can think that vehicles are living things, but vehicles are non-living things, because vehicles will be moved if we are drive them. So without a driver, any vehicle cannot move. So if any vehicle want to move, we have to drive. So without a driver, any vehicle cannot move. So any vehicle or any lorry, bus, jeep or bus, any vehicle cannot move by itself. So it will move if it has a driver in it. So in this way, all living things will move, whereas non-living things does not move. So this is the second characteristics. So let us see the third characteristics. That is, all living things feel. So all living things feel. So feeling. So this is the characteristic. So that is the one of the characteristic which differentiate between living things and non-living things. Up to we have discussed the first one is growth, and second one is move, and third one is feel. So all living things feel. That means all living things expresses their feelings, whereas non-living things does not expresses any feelings. So the things which expresses feelings can be treated as living things, and the things which cannot expresses their feelings can be treated as non-living things. So all living things expresses feelings, but different living things expresses the feelings in different ways. That means all the living things cannot expresses the feelings in the same way. So different things expresses the feelings in different ways. For example, if we consider human beings, so human beings, the human beings feels pain, then he will express it by crying. And if the human beings get happiness, then he will express it by laughing. So all of you know, if we get any pain or any sadness, then we will cry. And in the same way, if we got happiness, then we will laugh. So we can express the feelings in different ways. So in the same way, if we get angry, we will shout. So if we get angry, we will shout. So in this way, we can express our feelings in these ways. So in the different ways. So all living things expresses the feelings, whereas non-living things does not expresses their feelings. So for example, so if we place our finger in a flame, so we can immediately pull back our hand, because if we put the hand in the flame, then it will causes burns, and we will get the feeling, and we will express that feeling immediately by pulling our hand or by withdrawing our hand from the flame. So in this way, we have different types of feelings. That is, all living things, birds, animals, plants and human beings have different types of feelings, and they will express their feelings, whereas non-living things does not express this feeling. For example, if we place our feet on pieces of glasses, so immediately we can lift our leg upside, because if we place our leg on the pieces of glass, so it will causes pain and it will bleeds blood. So we can immediately express the feeling of that pain by quickly removing our feet from the glass pieces. So whereas if you place a book, or if you place a pen, or if you place a computer on the glass pieces, so it does not show any feeling. Or if you place a pen in the flame, so it does not show any feeling. Or if you pour a hot coffee in a cup, the cup does not show any feeling or any pain, because the cup is a non-living thing and the pen is a non-living thing. That's why they does not express any feeling of pain or any feeling of hungry or any feeling of sadness. So in this way, all living things expresses feelings, whereas non-living things does not expresses the feelings. Next, the fourth one is all living things will eat. So all living things will eat. So the fourth characteristic that differentiate between living things and non-living things is eating. That means all living things eat. So all living things eat. So we have already discussed in the previous episode that all living things will eat food. So if the living things will eat food, they will get energy. If they does not eat, they does not get energy. If they don't have energy, they cannot move. And if they eat food for so many days, they will die. So in this way, every living thing, that is human beings, plants, birds, animals, every living thing will eat. And they will move from one place to another place for getting their food. After getting their food, they will eat. So after eating, only they will get energy. So energy will get from the food. So every living thing will eat. So we will do so many types of works every day. So from where you will get energy for doing that works? So simply by eating food. So if you do not eat food, so you cannot do any work. So you can easily tired. So for doing works or for getting energy, so every living thing should have to eat. But whereas non-living things does not eat. For example, if the pen does not eat. So if you place a mango, a piece of fruits, or if you place a rice, or if you place a chicken near the pen, so the pen does not eat. So not only pen, all non-living things like computer, TV, fridge, AC, and lorry, car, buses. So all non-living things does not eat food, and they does not require food. So whereas all living things eat food because they should get energy for doing different types of works in their life. So this is the fourth characteristics which differentiate between living things and non-living things. So, and the next another one is, so all living things need food. That means all living things reproduce. So all living things eat food. So if living things does not eat food, they will die. So how can you prove that all living things eat food, and if they does not eat food, they will die? How can you prove it? Here we can prove this by using a simple activity. So by using this simple activity, we can prove that if living things does not eat, they will die. That means living things should eat food for their existence. So take a small activity. So for this activity, we require 2 jars of same size. So for this activity, so we should require 2 jars of same size. So take 2 jars of same size, so which are made up of glass. So take 2 glass jars and place 2 yams inside it. So take 2 jars which are made up of glass and place 2 yams in it. And place some food in one jar, and the second jar does not have any food. So place food like sugar, so something, place some food in one jar and does not place any food in the second jar. So observe the ants for 2 or 3 days. So if you gradually observe the ants after 1 or 2 days, the ant which is present in the jar having not food will die, and the ant will live because in the first jar there is a food for it. By eating food, it will exist. So by using this simple activity, we can prove that so animals should need food and they eat food. So in the first jar we placed food, that's why the ant becomes live and it does not die. And in the second jar there is no food, that's why the ant died in the second jar. So this is the simple activity. So by using this simple activity, we can prove that all living things eat food. So next one is all living things reproduce. Okay, the next characteristic which differentiate living things from non-living things is so reproduction. So all living things reproduce. So all living things reproduce. So that means all living things gave birth to their new ones. So that means all living things produces their offsprings or their new babies or their new small kids during their lifespan. So this process of producing their own kind or the process of producing their offsprings or the process of producing their own young babies is called reproduction. So all the living things, that is human beings, birds, animals and plants, all living things will reproduce their new ones. So for example, if you consider hens, so if you take for example, if you take hens, so it will lay eggs. So it will lay eggs. So after some days, these eggs will be converted into small chickens or small chicks. So after some days, chicks will be converted into again big hens. So in this way, the hens will reproduce their new ones by using their eggs. So not only hens, all the birds, all the birds will reproduce their new ones with their eggs. And if you consider dogs, they will reproduce their puppies. So they will directly give birth to their new one. So for example, if you consider animals like dogs, cats, rats, and most of the animals gave birth directly to their new one. For example, dogs reproduce puppies, and the puppies are the smaller ones which looks like similar to the dogs. So in this way, all the living things reproduce their new ones to continue their race. If they does not reproduce, their race will be extinct, and after some years, so no living thing will exist on this earth. So for the existence of the earth or for the existence of their race, all living things have to reproduce. So in the same way, if the cats are considered, the cats also produces kittens. So kittens means small cats are called kittens and small puppies are called dogs. So in the same way, all the animals directly gave birth to their new ones. So this process of producing their new ones, that means their young babies, is called reproduction. So whereas consider human beings, a woman will give birth to their kids. So a woman gave birth to their kids. So this process of producing their new one by using the help of seeds or eggs is called reproduction. So if you consider plants, so plants reproduce their new ones with the help of seeds. So if we plant a seed in the soil, then we will get a new plant which looks like it's a mother plant. So in the same way, the birds, animals, plants and human beings will reproduce their new ones to continue their race on the earth. Whereas non-living things does not reproduce. That means a pen does not produce its new one. That means the pen does not produce a small pen. In the same way, not only pen, in the same way, if you consider a book does not produce its new one. Because book is a non-living thing. In the same way, if you consider TV does not produce its new one. Because TV is a non-living thing. So okay, now go to the next characteristic, that is breathe. All living things breathe and non-living things does not breathe. So the last characteristic is all living things breathe. All living things breathe. So this is the one of the characteristic which differentiate living things from non-living things. That is, all living things will breathe, whereas non-living things does not breathe. That means the things which breathe can be treated as living things, and the things which cannot breathe can be treated as non-living things. So all of us know every living thing, that means human beings, birds, plants and animals, all the living things will breathe, because all living things will need oxygen for existence. So they will breathe oxygen. They will breathe oxygen for their existence. For example, if we consider human beings, all human beings breathe oxygen. So all human beings breathe oxygen with the help of lungs and nose. So all human beings breathe oxygen for their existence. So all human beings need oxygen to become to exist. So if there is no oxygen, or if the human beings does not breathe oxygen, they cannot exist. They will be dead. So every human being, and not only human being, both animals, birds and plants, all living things will breathe for their existence. For example, if we consider human beings, they will breathe oxygen through the lungs and nose. So they will breathe oxygen through the nose, and oxygen will enter into the lungs from the nose, and from the lungs the oxygen will mix with the blood, and the blood supplies the oxygen to all the parts in our body. That is, to heart, to brain, to legs, to hands. That is, the oxygen mixed with the blood, and the blood will supply the oxygen to all the organs present in our body. Then only the organs will work properly in our body. So all human beings, not only human beings, the birds, animals should breathe. So they should require oxygen. So for the oxygen they will breathe through their nose. So the oxygen enters into their lungs, and from the lungs it will mix with the blood, and the blood will carry the oxygen to all their body parts. So then only the body parts will work properly. So then only they will move, and then only they will become exist. So if there is no oxygen, they cannot breathe and they cannot exist on the earth. They will be dead. So all the living things will breathe, but the way of taking oxygen, that means the way of breathing is different in different living things. That means different living things takes oxygen with the help of different organs. For example, if we take human beings, they will take oxygen through lungs. So lungs are the respiratory organs. So lungs are the respiratory organs human beings, and also most of the animals and most of the birds have lungs as the respiratory organs. That means through the lungs they will breathe oxygen into their bodies. And if you take fishes, so whereas in fishes they breathe oxygen with the help of their gills. So look at the picture. So in the picture it is a picture of a fish, and the picture showing the gills present in the fish. With the help of that gills, the fishes will breathe oxygen present in the water. So gills are the special arrangement which is in the fishes to breathe oxygen present in the water. So the gills allows only oxygen into their bodies but not allow the water into their bodies. So gills is the special arrangement in the fishes. So with the help of gills, fishes will breathe their oxygen. And whereas if we consider frogs, so frogs will breathe with the help of their skin and also nose. And if we consider a snake also breathe their oxygen with the help of their nose, that is lungs. So in this way all living things will breathe oxygen, that means all will respiration takes place in the help of different parts present in it. So in human beings, lungs are the respiratory organs, that means lungs takes the oxygen from their nose. Whereas in fishes, the breathing will take place with the help of gills, and in frog, the breathing will takes place with the help of their skin. So whereas non-living things does not breathe, they does not require oxygen. So for example, if you take pen, so it does not breathe and it does not require oxygen. So without oxygen, they can remain so many days or so many years. But whereas if there is no oxygen, and whereas in the case of living things, if they does not breathe, they will die immediately within seconds. So the non-living things does not breathe. Pen, pencil, car, bus, computer, TV, fridge. So all living things does not breathe. So this is the chapter living and non-living things in the first unit. So this chapter is completed.